Hello, I'm Lloyd Bonson and welcome to Donington Park for Class A and B of the Competition Car Insurance Ford Fiesta Championship. We've got some fantastic racing for you today, and I'll hand you over to Richard to go through the current championship standings.
Thanks, Lloyd. It's John Langridge that tops the standings in Class A. 64 points. He's clear of David Elsom, Nick Tiley in third and William Thoresen in fourth position. Zena Cooper yet to score in fifth. Class B looks like this. Scott Baines with a near perfect start to the season for him, 71 points ahead of Ken Bateman. Then it's Nick Barton, Claire Kemp in fourth ahead of James Appleby and Michelle Edwards in sixth. Cars coming onto the grid here at Donington Park. Always a very much loved circuit, Donington. It was under threat a while ago, but it's back now with a vengeance. And pole position with a vengeance, John Langridge with David Elsom alongside. William Thoresen, position 3 from Scott Baines, then Nick Barton and Ken Bateman on the third row. Keith Chapman and Kevin Stirling on row 4. Then Nick Tiley and James Appleby, Claire Kemp and Michelle Edwards on the sixth row of the grid. And on his own at the back, Alan Donnelley. Well, Alan Donnelley not actually on the grid. I'll tell you a little bit more about that story as we go on, but he is starting from the pit lane. There is the 30-second board going out on the countdown marker. And John Langridge, the man who starts on pole position once again. Third pole position of the year for Langridge from Bodiam in Sussex. Brand new to car racing this year. 5-second board going out now on the gantry. And 20 minutes of Class A and B Fiesta action. Getting ready, great start as ever by David Elsom. Scotty Baines off third position, fourth position even, up into third. Everybody away clear, but John Langridge it is that has thrown down the gauntlet up through the gears much quicker than David Elsom in car number 40. Scott Baines in third place, down to Redgate for the first time. Oh, and being tipped round there, William Thoresen from third on the grid is the car 31. He is off the circuit. A couple of other cars have got off as well. I think we've seen Ken Bateman go off from 55, the red and white car on the outside of the circuit. Ever present on the podium so far, Ken Bateman. He's got a lot of work to do to close up. There he is, rejoining at the back with William Thoresen. The race leader, John Langridge, is already away and down the road. As we look at the midfield runners there, 27 is James Appleby, giving chase to 17. Keith Chapman, and contact there between... It's Claire Kemp in the white car out of shot. That one there is Michelle Edwards, the man from Kent, has gone off, so contact, I think, pretty much unavoidable between those two. Claire Kemp's car is looking pretty much the worst from where, as we look at Kevin Stirling needing Nick Barton. It's Kevin Stirling, the Scotsman, needing Nick Barton at the moment, coming through the latter stages of Coppice Corner and about to go down the Dunlop straight for the first time. Down behind them, James Appleby, and it's Nick Tiley running in Class A. Nick, who had a fairly dismal meeting at Snetterton, I was about to say Silverstone, but it was Snetterton round 2. His engine was down on power, and I think he sorted that out. So he's getting back to grips with the car and also learning the Donington circuit. Many of the drivers haven't raced here before in Class A and Class B. Now, the car you need to keep your eye out is the all-red machine of Alan Donnelley, the 34-year-old Ulsterman from Cookstown in Northern Ireland, car dealer. And he started from the pit road. He actually qualified in second position, but had problems with his engine and wasn't able to start in his own car. So he's managed to borrow a car from O'Dell Motorsport for the day. But because he didn't practice in that car, he's having to start from pit lane or the back of the grid. You can see the rescue vehicle just going across the camera. That's going to go to the aid of Claire Kemp's car. Claire, I can tell you, is okay. The car very much not okay, and a lot of work to be done on that machine. There's William Thoresen, who had a spin. He's got it out of the gravel, and I think he's going to be the first driver to be lapped. John Langridge through. Second position car is through as well. That's Scott Baines. Then we go back to Kevin Stirling, Nick Bateman. Car number 17, the red car there, is Keith Chapman, and following Keith Chapman, the other red car, that's Alan Donnelley from the back of the grid. He's making lightning progress. He really is closing him down. Remember, he's got the 1800cc car, Class A car, as opposed to the 1400cc Class B machines. There's Ken Bateman climbing through the field as well in red and white at the back of this pack, but let's see what Alan Donnelley can do. He's already got past Keith Chapman, lining up now to have a go at Nick Barton. He's past Kevin Stirling, so the 43 machine having a very good run. Very impressive drive, of course. He's been in the championship for a good few years. only done the one full season so far, and was very impressive last year on a couple of outings. He's hoping to do Brands Hatch this year. And also Alan Donnelley building a Class C car, which hopefully we'll see later on in the season. James Appleby continues on his way. Ken Bateman right behind him in 55. The red and white car looks down the inside as they go into Hollywood. He's through on the inside, still giving chase to the other machines. Appleby right behind him, or not quite right behind him, but 5 or 6 lengths down is Nick Tiley, who is running in 4th position in Class A. So Nick learning the circuit, and you can expect to see him climb up the field as he gets to grips with car and circuit. Under Starkey's again. This is the view from David Elsom's car. So Elsom with a bit of work to do. Finished, had a few podiums since the season started, and he's making his way through the field. Keith Chapman in front. So Elsom, who started up the front end of the grid, got a bit of work to do. Let's see how he can deal with Keith Chapman. He's got a more powerful car, moves to the inside line, and I think he's going to get the manoeuvre done here as they come into McLean's. Keith Chapman hanging on the outside, and David Elsom, of course, the one thing he doesn't want to do is bend the car, but now he's got a room down the inside, a little bit more grunt as they come down the Dunlop straight, and it's a position gain there for David Elsom, the 40-year-old from Cambridge. Now he's going to have a quick look and see if he can get past Kevin Stirling. Stirling holding the inside line into the chicane. This could be a brave move here from Elsom. No, he backs out of it, don't blame him. Early stages of the race, 2 races of course to get through in the course of the afternoon, and he wants to enjoy all of those. Great view of the field coming down the straight. There is Nick Barton, there's David Elsom, the outside line, the white car with looks like a red stripe on the top of the machine. Then we go back with Keith Chapman in 17, still involved in the Class B mix, and he's coming under pressure from James Appleby. Nick Tiley down behind him. Tiley will be keeping a close eye on his teammate. Then it's Ken Bateman trying to come through the field as well in the red and white car. It's the car behind the yellow machine. He's got a fair bit to make up. Ken getting involved in that first lap skirmish, but there is David Elsom, car number 40, about to put a manoeuvre on the 53 car, and he's through. I think he's made up the position going under Starkey's bridge. There is Alan Donnelley going through. Alan Donnelley sized his way through the pack. Nick Barton ahead of him. There is David Elsom. Kevin Stirling, the man he's just passed. Down behind them it's 17 Keith Chapman, then James Appleby is closed up on Chapman, so I think Appleby might be preparing to have a go. Nick Tiley a little bit shy of this 3-car Class B scrap at the moment. There's Ken Bateman closing in and recovering from his first lap skirmish. I can tell you that Claire is definitely out of the race. William Thoresen still going, and side by side into the chicane they go and through. I thought Keith Chapman was going to have a go there, but he's lost momentum. And James Appleby in 27. Now look at this, they've both lost momentum, and Nick Tiley going past the pair of them like there's no tomorrow. The Class A car really outpowering those 2 scrapping Class B cars, and he's got himself now onto the back end of Kevin Stirling, going down into Redgate corner. Very neat and tidy over the curbs is Nick Tiley, running in 4th position in Class B. Looks like he'll hang on to that because the young Norwegian driver William Thoresen is a fair way behind, as we saw after a brilliant qualifying for him. 3rd on the grid, William Thoresen. He would be very happy with that, and just a shame that he wasn't able to convert it into a race podium, but he will be back in race 2 to have another go. Out of the Old Hairpin under Starkey's, you can see the thing that looks like a spark plug on the right hand side of the picture. That's the old commentary box, the second commentary box, although nowadays in the main commentary box here we use closed circuit TV around the circuit, which is the same closed circuit TV, incidentally, that the clerks of the course and officials use to spot misdemeanours around the track. Well, no misdemeanours going on here at the present time. Alan Donnelley struggling at the moment to get away from, I thought it was Alan Donnelley, beg your pardon, Keith Chapman struggling to get away from James Appleby. Nick Tiley has of course dealt with those, and we're on board with Nick once again, having a look down the Dunlop straight, and the power of that Class A car is there again. Superb manoeuvre, and plenty of time before he gets into the Fogarty S's. You can see the track actually does go straight on there onto what's known as the Melbourne Loop. I'm not sure if that's been used since the circuit was reopened in 2010, but certainly British Touring Car Meetings using it as the holding area for the cars coming out of the paddock. There is Alan Donnelley closing in on the lead bunch, trying to close in, doing his utmost to see if he can get not only a podium but a race win. This is a remarkable drive from him from pit lane. And to make the point, he's not familiar with this car. He hasn't had any laps in this car this weekend, and the setups will vary. He hasn't had a chance to set the car up at all. There's the man in front of him, Scott Baines, who is running in second position. Alan Donnelley certainly trying hard there. Kicks up a bit of dirt. Carries on his way. So Scott Baines in second position. John Langridge, meanwhile, has the fastest lap already in this one. He's setting the pace. Getting away from the field. A little bit of a gap. Back there is Nick Barton. Nick Tiley got a bit of work to do before he can close in on Nick. James Appleby still up there with Keith Chapman. And Ken Bateman in the 55 car towards the back. Ken's going to be really disappointed because he's second in Class B in the championship standings and ever present on the podium so far this year. Back to second and third place. Langridge just out of shot. There is Scott Baines going through, still in second position. Third place is Alan Donnelley. Fourth position is David Elsom. Following David Elsom, it's William Thoresen. William in the black and white car. He, remember, is a lap down the 31 machine. In fact, it's a dark blue front rather than the black one, but there he goes, the Norwegian student living in England and studying in England. This is his second racing weekend of the year. Missed out on the Snetterton round a few weeks ago, but great to see him back in Class A battle.
With so much racing going on in the world, you'd have to be a four-headed monster to keep up with it all. Luckily, we have that. Join Peter Keane, Bill Wood, Errol Tucker, and their guest driver analyst each week for an opinionated look at the news coming out of the racing world. Remember, it's GoRacingTV.com for all your racing and video needs.
So through they go again. Alan Donnelley really coming under pressure. David Elsom's really got it wound up now. The 40 car, 40 years of age, the driver. Twin cam racing, cam being a reference to Cambridge, where David and Nick Tiley hail from, producing a team newsletter after each round and sometimes before the other rounds as well. Doing a little bit to raise money for various charities too, including their local air ambulance, which is to be applauded. And generally I think everybody says that their approach to racing absolutely spot on. They're enjoying their racing. They're promoting the competition car insurance Ford Fiesta Championship through their newsletter. And if you're wondering how they came into it, they're ex-track day drivers. They did track days. I think went up to Jonathan Palmer's track at Bruntingthorpe and then decided to come and have a go at racing themselves and acquitting themselves very well. And Elsom having a look at the inside there of Alan Donnelley, really putting the veteran Donnelley under a bit of pressure. Borrowed car or not, Alan Donnelley's under pressure from David Elsom. Scotty Baines still there in fourth position and leading Class B. A comfortable lead for Scott Baines in Class B, and it looks like he's going to make it 5 wins out of 5 for him. Elsom losing a little bit of ground through there. You can see all the groundworks in the background as we go past there that the previous owner of Donington Park started to do in order to try and attract the British Grand Prix. And somewhat ironic as we look at the groundworks that's being done there. The new wing at Silverstone has been opened recently to host the Grand Prix. So really we've got the best of all worlds going on at the moment. We've got Donington Park back open and giving us some terrific racing. Here is David Elsom, gets it too hard into the corner. Keep your foot in, David. He does that. The car bites again. Back on the green. A very spirited challenge for second position, and you've got to have a go. Hats off to David Elsom for having a go, but I think he's lost third position to Scott Baines now, and Alan Donnelley, the pressure is off the Ulsterman. Here he comes. Oh, throws it into the chicane. Donnelley having a good old go, and well, the pressure might have been off, but he's still absolutely gunning. And of course a matter of pride that he wants to get on terms with John Langridge. So Scott Baines back into third position, doesn't change his class position. A little go on the wipers there for David Elsom will clear the screen. William Thoresen's doing well. Held on to position down behind this pair. And we would expect that, as we said, qualified in third position today. And that disappointment of the first lap well behind him. But he's held track position very well indeed as David Elsom tries to get third back from Scott Baines. Down through the Craner curves once again. And Baines certainly knows how to drive the smaller engine class cars very, very quickly indeed, and he can be an absolute menace for the Class A cars. He's not being a menace now, but he's just giving David Elsom a real challenge. And one of the beauties of this championship is that you can race with faster cars. If you're one of the slower drivers, you can race with the faster cars from the smaller category, and that's exactly what's happening here. A fast Class B car racing with, I'll tell you what, he's not one of the slower drivers, is he, in Class A, David Elsom? But anyway, he's got through, and a great way to practice his overtaking technique. Down towards Coppice we go once again, and David Elsom has redone all his hard work, back into third position, and there's somebody else doing hard work at the head of the quartet now. It's Ken Bateman. Through goes Nick Tiley, fourth in Class A, and then this four-way scrap, Ken Bateman up into, I think, third in class. Yes, he's through. James Appleby coming through as well. Kevin Stirling is down to third in this little quartet, and Keith Chapman's looking up the inside in car number 17, the red car. Can Keith Chapman nip up the inside as they go into McLean's? Yes, he can. So Kevin Stirling, from the front of this four-car group, has now gone to the back, and Ken Bateman, you can see why he's second in the championship. He's reeled them in over the opening laps up to probably two-thirds distance, and then chipped away and managed to pass them each in turn. So great performance by Ken Bateman, followed still by James Appleby. Across the line they go once again, and some good entertainment here. We hate to see drivers going out in the early stages, but my goodness, what a great fight back from Ken Bateman in 55. Some of the best overtaking I think we've seen in the Competition Car Insurance Championship so far this year. We had the big wide open spaces of Silverstone at round one, everybody settling into their 2011 accounts there, and then we had the round at Snetterton, and so far we've had some good racing in this one. The race format, of course, with the Competition Car Insurance Ford Fiesta Championship, each event is a two-day event with practice and qualifying on day one, normally the Saturday, and two 20-minute races on day two, which is normally the Sunday. We're in the first one of those races. The 20 minutes incidentally includes any time that might happen for safety cars or possibly red flags as well, assuming we've got time to restart. But it means that drivers have got to really behave themselves, but in another respect it does guarantee them track time. If it's a wet race you get 20 minutes rather than more laps, and it helps the organisers put their days together with a little bit more efficiency. The race organiser, incidentally, the British Racing and Sports Car Club, as we look at Keith Chapman trying to go down the inside of James Appleby into the S's. He's working hard, locks up. Appleby, I think now Appleby could squeeze him onto the grass here, but he's very well aware. That was good driving by Chapman and Appleby, and very respectful from Appleby. Could have just forced him onto the grass. You see that so often, but Appleby, being a little bit of a gentleman, wants to take his car home in one bit. Let's take our hats off to him for that, but he's lost a bit of momentum. Kevin Stirling goes through, so too does Keith Chapman. Stirling's had the better run, and he's going around the outside at Redgate, and Appleby's coming back and having a look down the inside. No room for him there, still side by side, Stirling and Chapman. Good scrap between these. It's allowing, of course, Ken Bateman to get away at the head of the quartet, and James Appleby, as I say, I take my hat off to him, because so often you see cars being squeezed off onto the grass on the exit, and that was good sportsmanlike racing from Appleby, the youngster. I dare say in future he'll probably squeeze him onto the grass, having said that. But like I said, wants to take the car home in one bit, as does this man, John Langridge, out of Super 1 karting, moved up into Ford Fiestas this year. This is only his third race meeting, and his fifth race. You can see spits and spots on the windscreen now, making conditions not quite ideal here at Donington Park, but Langridge has absolutely relished whatever the championship has thrown at him so far this year. Down through the Craner curves, now coming into the Old Hairpin, keeping it out wide, chops across, takes the apex. He's got back marker traffic in front of him. Under Starkey's Bridge, through the Schwantz curves now, past Claire Kemp's car. Little dash on the wipers there, just to keep things all safe and sound. He'll probably afford himself a look in the mirror and see Alan Donnelley trying to reel him in behind. Langridge with fastest lap as well, continuing his absolutely perfect textbook start to the season and textbook start to a motor racing career. There can't be too many drivers that come into car racing and get 3 pole positions, 5 wins and 3 fastest laps in their debut in motor racing. But there is Langridge down the Dunlop straight for the last time. Down the gears on the brakes, he can afford to take this one very, very carefully indeed. There's the 77 car of Michelle Edwards, and Alan Donnelley throws his car in behind into the S's, but it's all to no avail because the checkered flag is being readied and goes down on John Langridge, who makes it win number 5. Alan Donnelley takes second position. David Elsom, a good recovery from that little sideways moment that he had to take third overall, and also third in Class A. Class B honours are going to go the way of Scott Baines, who comes out of the S's now just ahead of William Thoresen, who I think has driven a good race after those first lap problems that William had. There is Scott Baines winning Class B, and we're going to look back to see who's going to get second in Class B. The quartet of cars are busy coming down the main straight, the Dunlop straight. But the overall win going once again to John Langridge, who takes it from Alan Donnelley. David Elsom in third place, and Scott Baines wins Class B. Nick Barton second there. Nick Tiley fourth in Class A and 6th overall. Ken Bateman comes 7th from Keith Chapman. Then it's Kevin Stirling in 9th from Michelle Edwards, and William Thoresen in 11th.
Scott Baines, interesting race out there at Donington Park this morning, certainly with the weather. Talk us through it.
We got off the line again very well. I think there was a bit of an incident after the first corner, which put a few 1800s in between us. Luckily I pulled away, really just maintained the gap again. So the rain came at the end, but we had enough. I don't know how far behind the other cars were, but certainly there's a big enough gap to sort of back off a little bit as not to spin. That was it really.
And looking at the weather at the moment, what do you think is going to happen this afternoon?
I don't know. It's showers. It's supposed to be showers all day, I think. So who knows? It's a case of being on the right tyres at the right time, isn't it? You know, it's very easy to get wrong, and it's a bit of a gamble, really. But we'll see.
And for you, if the weather does stay like this, is there much you've got to change on the car for this afternoon's race?
It depends how severe the weather is. I think the ST boys are trying to make that decision now, whether they go with full slicks or they stick some wets on the front, or full wets on the back. You know. Potentially it's just changing the tyres and suspension, so not a lot, but it's just getting the right combination of tyres on the right places at the right time.
So it could be an interesting afternoon.
Yeah, we'll see. The weather will play into it a fair bit, I would imagine, but it's still in the hands of God, so to speak.
Anyway, congratulations once again, and we look forward to speaking to you after the second race.
Lovely, cheers. Thank you.
Claire, I guess a disappointing end to the first race here at Donington Park for you. Talk us through what happened.
Yeah, everyone was on cold tyres, started spinning out. I just kept it nailed, thought I'd got through all the traffic, and then I ended up being sandwiched. I had Nick Tiley, Class A, in front of me, who was a bit slower through the corners than me, and everyone just started skittering about, and then I think I just got tagged, sent me one way. I thought I'd saved it. Everyone went to the right-hand side of me, it flicked the other way, and then unfortunately Michelle Edwards went the left-hand side of me and just caught it, and that was it. Game over for both of us, glass everywhere, bits of car everywhere, and it wouldn't start. The isolator just shut off, and that was it.
How hopeful are you of getting it repaired for this afternoon?
I'm praying that we'll be able to get it out there. Scott's obviously working on it with the rest of the team, so hopefully we will get out there for race 2. I really want to. It's been a long weekend. It's cost us a lot of money to come here, so it'd be a shame not to race.
And if you do get out this afternoon, I guess you're keeping an eye on the weather and trying to see what that's doing as well. Yeah. Is that going to have much of an impact on how you set the car up and if you do decide to go out?
Got nothing to lose. It's track experience at the end of the day. I've not been out in the car much, so I think we'll just go for it. If we can get the car running, we will just go for it regardless of the weather and see what happens. So,
well, we wish you all the best of luck, and hopefully we'll see you out there this afternoon.
Thanks very much.
State your desires.
Speed, adrenaline, competition.
Calculating. Result in 3, 2, 1. The National Auto Sport Association. Start here.
David, another good run in the Class A race here this morning at Donington Park, even though the weather's slightly hampered things a little bit.
Yeah, it took me by surprise a little bit. Started yesterday really at practice, and having not raced here before, Went into practice third lap, a bit too hot on the brakes into the chicane, and I got a puncture, unfortunately. So I didn't really get much track time yesterday before qualifying. Qualifying went well, and I came my predictable second, which is becoming a bit of a feature now. But that was fine, and the start today was a good start. I felt it was a good start from me. John had and also a good start, which was the problem. And as we went into that first corner, I could see Scott had tagged on the back of John. I knew that if John went through, Scott and then the others would be coming through. So I just went in a bit too fast, really, and paid the price, and so I had to rejoin at the back, really.
But certainly with the change in weather, it's that's made things a little bit interesting towards the back end of the race, and should help you out a little bit this afternoon, I would have thought.
I think so. I think it started well, obviously it was quite dry, the slicks were working really well, and feeling really comfortable. Tyres were going off, and then the rain came down, and sort of red mist with Donnelley to catch, and so it was all starting to get a bit ragged. But as we came into Coppice, I almost had Donnelley. He went wide into the gravel, and unfortunately I selected fifth gear instead of third, which meant I went wide as well, so I missed my opportunity there for a second place. So there's a lot to play for this afternoon. I'm looking forward to starting third and seeing what I can pick up.
Fantastic. Well, we wish you all the best of luck.
Cars coming out onto the grid for race 2 for Class A and B here at Donington Park. John Langridge on pole and Alan Donnelley alongside. Then it's David Elsom and Scott Baines, Nick Barton and Nick Tiley on row 3. Row 4, Ken Bateman and Keith Chapman. Then it's Kevin Stirling and Michelle Edwards, William Thoresen and James Appleby on the 6th row of the grid. And I'm pleased to say that on row 7, Claire Kemp's repairs have been effected by the team, and Claire will be taking her position at the back of the field. The grid, of course, based on the results from race 1, which means that the driver's having a DNF start at the back. Claire's got a chance, therefore, to understand that her car is okay, and if all is okay, she'll work her way through from the back of the field, which is good. But at the front, we've got an intriguing prospect of John Langridge and Alan Donnelley battling together. Remember, Donnelley started the first race from the pit lane. Lights out. Good start by Scott Baines from the outside of the second row. David Elsom gets away well too. John Langridge slightly better off the line than Alan Donnelley. Remember, Donnelley racing in a borrowed car. And the first three, the top three Class A cars getting away as perhaps we would expect from Scott Baines. Down into Redgate, Elsom gets a little bit of a wobble. It's Ken Bateman in 5th position, heading the rest of the Class B runners. But we are on board with Nick Tiley, who is gradually learning the circuit. Is the improvement that Nick's had over the course of the weekend is very, very good indeed. As I say, a lot of drivers coming to Donington Park and learning the circuits from scratch. And Nick enjoying himself there at the back. There's contact up front. Nick Barton and contact Nick Barton with Keith Chapman. So Nick Barton spun and Keith Chapman couldn't avoid him. Nick Barton there with a bit of damage. The tailgate flapping on the back of the car as we look through the dust at Nick. So that is bitter disappointment for him. But John Langridge, who, if he was looking in his mirrors, will have seen that. I suspect that he was fully focused on the road in front to get away from the man in second position. Alan Donnelley chasing him. And I wonder whether we're going to see Alan Donnelley take the battle to John Langridge over the course of this race. Third position is Scott Baines, ahead now of David Elsom. So Scott Baines has had a very good second half of the lap. You can see, and he's been passed by Elsom on the run down into the chicane. So David Elsom back into third position. He's a little way down on Donnelley. Look at the lead that Langridge and Donnelley have got over, well, to be fair, Baines and Elsom have been squabbling, haven't they, over third place, and that would have slowed them up a little bit. Through comes Elsom, then down into Redgate corner for the second time. Scott Baines in 73, the leading Class B driver. Man from Ely in Cambridgeshire, again putting in a Stirling drive. Look how far ahead he is already of the chasing Class B battle. If you look back, you can barely see the second place car in Class B. It's a great start to the race for him. There is David Elsom in car number 40, the 40-year-old from Cambridge. Bit of dust being kicked up there. Now, is that somebody off or back marker rejoining or what? I don't know. We can't see. The leaders are still with us. Langridge from Donnelley, and then David Elsom behind him. Scott Baines still relatively in touch with David Elsom. And Scott, of course, will try. That's his aim here. He's clear of the other Class B cars. So his aim is to try and reel in David Elsom and have a battle with him. And we've seen Scott Baines do that so many times, not just this season but last season as well. He's got the pace to mix it with even some of the faster Class A runners. It makes you wonder what Scott Baines could do if he could get hold of a Class C car. And I suspect that that might be in his aspirations for future race rounds, as Elsom comes through the Fogarty S's, still leading Scott Baines. The 73 car, 4th in the race currently, leading Class B by a handsome. Now we've got a flag going out there, the orange and black flag. I don't know if you saw it on the pit lane, but that's the mechanical warning flag. So somebody's got a problem with their car. Maybe usually it goes out when you've got a piece of bodywork hanging off or something like that. And the officials will tell that, oh, and there is the answer in the background. It's Nick Barton. So that contact on lap 1, I said that his boot lid was flapping, and it's now open, and the officials want to tell him about that. I'm not sure if he'll know. He'll probably got a little bit of unexpected air conditioning on the car, but I'm sure he'll come into pit road and sort that out. As we look at Nick Tiley coming under pressure from Keith Chapman, the red car. They're one of the oldest cars in the championship, Keith Chapman's car. I understand that it was originally raced in the Fiesta Championship when it supported the British touring cars quite a few years ago. And Keith Chapman, I think the longest serving driver in the championship, looking through on the inside of Nick Tiley. So good manoeuvre there by Keith Chapman. Ahead now of Nick Tiley as they go under Starkey's Bridge. Not a position in class for Tiley, but nonetheless it's a position in the race. Kevin Stirling in car number 53. The Scotsman based in Norwich, London Body Shop Havers Tyres entered car, leading the 27 machine of Ripon-based James Appleby. That's the white car with the blue stripes across the roof. Then it's Claire Kemp. Claire's made excellent progress through the field. So Claire is there in the first white car going out of shot. Then it's Keith Chapman, Nick Tiley in yellow. Down behind them it's William Thoresen, the young Norwegian driver running 5th in Class B. And he's engaged, or will be engaged, I think, very shortly in battle with Nick Tiley. So there goes the Stirling Appleby pairing. I hesitate to say battle yet because they're not quite at that stage. Tiley and Thoresen about a couple of lengths between each other. Then Michelle Edwards. Then it's Nick Bateman coming into pit road. So Nick Bateman, well, he did pick up that signal a lap ago and he's into pit road. So the team will see if they can get that door shut and fixed shut more appropriately. As Keith Chapman comes down into Redgate corner, still chasing Claire Kemp. Claire's had a very good run from the back of the field. William Thoresen down the inside of Nick Tiley, challenge for 4th position in Class B. Thoresen can't quite do it. The Norwegian student based up north for his studies missed the second meeting of the year. That was at Snetterton, but he's back with us this weekend, and a terrific performance in qualifying, as we said, in race 1, 3rd on the grid, but wasn't to work out for him. I'm sure we're going to see and hear a lot more of that young man as he goes down through Starkey's, up through Schwantz curve, still giving chase. I've got a feeling actually Keith Chapman and Claire Kemp is probably the closest battle on circuit, although having said that, Nick Tiley and William Thoresen getting closer. Michelle Edwards in the 77 car is there in the mix as well, so a three-way scrap between those two. Great job by Claire Kemp's team to get that car up and running for race 2, particularly one of the there's a lot of people that debate the format of our weekends in the competition car insurance Ford Fiesta Championship, and some people say it's better to have one race Saturday, one race Sunday, because if you've got a lot of damage in race 1, you've got more time to prepare it, and a lot of people prefer having all the racing on day 2. Well, it is a difficult one for organisers. You can't please everybody all the time. Well, here's Nick Tiley using that extra 400cc's to pass Keith Chapman down the straight. There he comes, and is he going to turn in? No, he doesn't. Keith Chapman goes through on the inside and also passes Claire Kemp. I think Chapman might have been unsighted behind Tiley, and great manoeuvre then by Keith Chapman up a position ahead of Claire Kemp. Nick Tiley has got to wait another lap to try and pass these two Class B cars. Certainly he's got the poke to do it on the straights. Down towards the Old Hairpin. Let's just watch Nick's line. You can see the curves do unsettle the car a little bit. Up into Schwantz curve they go. Very long, winding left-hander, and then it's the right-hander at McLean's. So on the downshift, then using the curb, a little bit of a straight, then through to the very long right-hander at Coppice corner up towards the end of another lap. great view we got from Nick Tiley, and Claire Kemp trying to get back on terms, of course, with Keith Chapman up front, but not having a great deal of luck at the moment. Down the Dunlop straight. Now, can Nick get the job done here? Up into top. He's through, isn't he? He's got the power through on the inside. Passes Claire Kemp to make up a position. And now it's going to be a challenge on Keith Chapman, who rumbles the curbs there. Now, we've lost William Thoresen, haven't we, out of the mix? So William Thoresen has dropped back a little bit. Disappointment for the Norwegian as we go back to Ken Bateman, car number 55 from Kevin Stirling. Ken Bateman running second in Class B. Kevin Stirling is third in class. Then followed by 27 James Appleby. Appleby goes through. Then it's Nick Barton. Now, Nick Barton's in the mix there. I was just hesitating a moment there because I'm thinking, hang on, Nick Barton, he wasn't in the fray a minute ago. He's been in the pits, of course, and had that... and off goes William Thoresen! Thoresen's off in 31 into the gravel. That's the exit of the chicane. The leaders are coming through. There's John Langridge and Alan Donnelley coming into shot. Well, Thoresen tried to get moving, but sadly he is beached and out of the race. I'm not sure if that's going to bring out the safety car. So we see James Appleby closing in on Kevin Stirling. Appleby, I think, is going to... Well, he was thinking about looking up the inside to go into McLean's, but that's not going to work for him. Not into McLean's, into Coppice corner. And Ken Bateman getting away in the red and white 55 car. 6 or 7 car length lead. Stationary yellows greeting the cars into the danger zone created by William Thoresen. There is William getting out of the car. Marshall's gesticulating that he leaves the scene as soon as possible. So Bateman, Stirling and Appleby all through safe and sound.
Club and amateur racer. Here at GoRacingTV, we salute you. And we want to give you all the tools and info to compete with the best. Find out how to do it all from your own garage by watching our Club Racer and Autocrosser shows. GoRacingTV.com, supplying all your video racing needs.
Let's watch the championship leader's style. He's been having a little bit of race tuition, and who can blame him for that? Changes down, coming into the Fogarty S's. This straight actually a little bit shorter than it used to be, past William Thoresen's car. And when they reprofiled the track, they brought the thing back. It makes the Wheatcroft straight longer, and the Dunlop straight, which was exhibition straight, a little bit shorter. Hasn't changed the dynamic of racing on the circuit at all. It's still an absolutely superb place to come. And a lot of people now wondering why they were planning to change the track at all. Langridge must be thinking that because he's loving it. Alan Donnelley goes a little bit wide there in second position. They're still trading fastest laps. Langridge 125.692. Donnelley 125.437, their respective best laps. So if that stays the way it is, Donnelley will go away with the fastest lap of this race. And that's going to be the only blot on the copybook so far of John Langridge's championship in 2011. Nick Tiley puts a lap on Nick Barton, so Nick is now down another lap. Kevin Stirling goes through, Tiley through the chicane as well, and continues to make progress. Nick Barton, you can see the tank tape on the back of the car. The team have done an excellent job getting that all sorted out. Then it's Claire Kemp, followed by Michelle Edwards and Keith Chapman. Keith Chapman taking a wide line here. Claire Kemp defensive, but grabbing the line she wants very confidently as they come down into Redgate. Claire Kemp hangs on to her position at the moment, which is going to be fourth in class. We've got Scott Baines winning the class, Ken Bateman second, Kevin Stirling third. So this is the battle for fourth in class. And Michelle Edwards starting to put her under a bit of pressure. Keith Chapman down behind as well. So 4th, 5th and 6th in Class B, and Nick Barton running in 7th in Class B, a lap down, currently in 11th position. We've lost James Appleby out of the race, incidentally, car number 27. So 2 non-finishers so far, 2 retirees so far, as Claire Kemp continues to come under pressure for Michelle Edwards. But he's also now got pressure from Keith Chapman. So Chapman in red, he's really the guy who's holding all the cards here, because he's got no pressure from behind, and he can pretty much take the line that he wants to have a go at these 2 cars in front of him. Michelle Edwards, the man from Chelsfield, in Kent. Keith Chapman comes from Munden in Essex. He's about to have a little go. Let's see how Nick Tiley's getting on, closing up on Kevin Stirling in the 53 car, and he certainly is getting closer. Nick Tiley continuing to make progress. He's doing so well in this race, and it'll be a big fillip for his confidence. Ken Bateman goes through 55, running second in Class B, and there goes Nick Tiley. Very neat overtaking manoeuvre past the car of Kevin Stirling, and that's going to put Nick Tiley up into 6th position. So goes Nick Barton, there's Claire Kemp, there's Michelle Edwards, and what's happened to Keith Chapman? Oh, there he is. Very sedate pace down into Redgate from Keith Chapman, who has lost quite a bit of ground, hasn't he? I'm not sure what's happening. He seems to have lost even more now as they come down through the curves in towards the Old Hairpin. Keith Chapman seems to have dropped away. Whether that's a mistake from him or some sort of mechanical malady, we'll see whether he can get back on terms with these two cars going under Starkey's Bridge. Ken Bateman, then Nick Tiley, followed by Kevin Stirling, then following Stirling it's Nick Barton a lap down. About 2/3, 3/4 of the way through the race, and off goes Michelle Edwards, making a mistake there. That really does take the pressure off Claire Kemp. That gives her 2 or 3 car lengths advantage over the 77 car. It might also mean that Keith Chapman could close in a little bit. Chapman doesn't seem to be doing so at the moment, but this 4th place scrap for Class B continues and goes down Exhibition Straight, the other end of the straight. Tiley is through, Stirling is through, Barton is through as well, and Nick Tiley now is champing at the bit to have a go at Ken Bateman. That could put Nick Tiley up in 5th position if he can pull off that manoeuvre. Scrap for Class B though is a little bit of breathing space between all the cars. Claire Kemp looking very comfortable now, the young lady from Ely. Great to see her back out. As we said, a very good effort by the team. Nick Barton comes through, down through Hollywood, down into the Craner curves. Keith Chapman still that fair old distance back. And up front, John Langridge continues to pull away. He's only got a couple of seconds over Donnelley this time, which is not as great a gap as he had in race 1, but of course he's had Donnelley riding his mirrors from the word go here, so I suspect there was maybe a little bit of defensive mindset from John Langridge. Here comes Claire Kemp once again, 4th position, pretty much I think sealed for her, or it might be the curse of the commentator. Scott Baines is still there, the 73 machine, the ASG Midlands Limited entered car turns in, and Scott really has been on his own really in this race. He's not been able to dice with any of the Class A cars. He hasn't had anybody in Class B to dice with, and that in some respects makes the job a little bit more difficult for him, because he's had to concentrate every inch of the way on his own driving on his part of the circuit and not had to defend, and sometimes it can be so easy to take your eye off the ball, but that's not something Scott tends to do. He's through, and we're watching potentially the Class B champion. Just to recap his record so far this year, it's been 5 wins out of 5, and this looks like he's going to make it 6 wins as well, same as John Langridge. So up into McLean's, he goes on his way to a 6th Class B victory. Kevin Stirling being closed on by Nick Barton. Nick racing for a little bit of pride here, a lap down, but of course he'll want to try and pass Kevin Stirling. I don't think he's going to interfere with any championship battles there. There's Nick Tiley closing in on Ken Bateman, so Nick trying to get up another position as well. This is the view from Nick Tiley's car. The Cambridge driver, he's enjoyed his weekend for sure. Into Coppice corner. Still nice and smooth for Nick. Ken Bateman maybe going a shade wider on that corner, and let's see whether Nick Tiley's got enough grunt to pass Ken Bateman down the straight. Looks like he's going to make a move now. Ken Bateman's coming across. He's not having any of it, is he? Ken Bateman's having a race. Don't care whether it's a Class A car or not. I'm going to take the line. Maybe he felt that Nick Tiley was a little bit too far back. Nick, learning the circuit, of course, too much of a gentleman to want to do an touring car style, lunges down the inside and risk taking both drivers off and away for the weekend with bags of damage. So Nick's going to content himself at the moment with that 6th position. I'm sure the opportunity will afford itself later in the race, maybe to have another go, although time is starting to tick away. The 20 minutes is very, very nearly up. and Nick still with a little bit of work to do. John Langridge, of course, still got work to do out front, just a couple of seconds clear of Alan Donnelley. There is Langridge, and he's going to lap Claire Kemp here, so looking down, Claire Kemp's lost a couple of positions. We've got Keith Chapman now in front there, the red car, ahead of Michelle Edwards, who in turn is ahead of Claire Kemp. So Langridge dealing with back markers. That's going to be absolutely key for him, because Alan Donnelley is within striking distance if the back markers cause a problem. Down into the Old Hairpin. Very neat and tidy for John Langridge once again. Oh, little kick up on the rumble strips. Regains his composure as he goes up through Schwant's corner. Up ahead of him is Michelle Edwards. He's going to look down the inside line, but Edwards feels he's too far back to do anything about it. Keith Chapman now up to 4th position in class. Langridge runs wide again. Down towards Coppice corner. Michelle Edwards is going for position. He's going for 4th place in Class B ahead of us. Doesn't quite work for him. He didn't have the momentum to carry through that part of Coppice. Maybe he'll do it on the straight. Langridge is having none of it. He goes very early down the inside. Past Edwards. He's a lap down now. So too is Keith Chapman. And Langridge will look in the mirror. He does a quick glance. He'll see that Alan Donnelley, I think, is back behind these two cars. Certainly can't see him at the moment for the last time. Into the chicane. There is Donnelley behind the two back markers. And it's John Langridge that's going to take the race win. The checkered flag's being unfurled for him. And John Langridge makes it 6 wins out of 6. 2nd position, all in red, goes to Alan Donnelley. 3rd place is going to go to David Elsom, with Scott Baines winning Class B. Confirmation of that result, with Langridge the winner and Alan Donnelley in 2nd place from David Elsom, Scott Baines 4th from Nick Tiley, Ken Bateman in 6th place. 7th position goes to Kevin Stirling from Keith Chapman, who gets 4th in Class B. Then it's Michelle Edwards ahead of Claire Kemp and Nick Barton in 11th. John Langridge leads Class A, 25 points clear of David Elsom, with Nick Tiley in 3rd, William Thoresen 4th, and Alan Donnelley joining the championship in 5th. Zena Cooper yet to score. On to Class B, Scott Baines extends his lead from Ken Bateman. Nick Barton's in 3rd place from Keith Chapman. Claire Kemp next up from Michelle Edwards.
John, 6 races into the Ford Fiesta Championship, 6 wins. Remind me again, this is your first year of racing cars, isn't it?
Yes, this is. But that was, make no mistake, the hardest race I've had to do. We were flat out from lights to flag. He was right on me the whole way, and there were a couple of points where I thought I might lose it. We were sort of running wide, and it was very interesting at the end as well with the back markers.
Lots going on, and as we say, you're still a novice to car racing, and yet you've had 6 wins. That's phenomenal.
Thank you very much. Don't know what to say to that. I hope to carry it on, of course, at Brands Hatch in a few weeks.
So, yeah, we'll go to Brands Hatch again. Another new circuit for you from racing a car point of view. What can you do there? Is it going to be another repeat of what we've seen so far, or is it? Do you think some of the other guys are catching you up?
Well, definitely this weekend's been the hardest. As I said earlier, I had a bit of an off yesterday, and that really compromised my practicing. But hopefully, I've been around Brands Hatch a few times, so hopefully I'll be able to string it together a clean weekend there. And it looks, the way it's going, if more people turn up as well, it looks like I'll have my work cut out for sure.
Once again, some great racing in classes A and B in the competition car insurance Ford Fiesta Championship. We hope you enjoyed it, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.